everyone designing game devs, Tony Chan here, and welcome to episode 27 of Game Dev Loadout, where I chat with the best people in our industry 7 days a week. If you are feeling unmotivated or don't know how to get started, we are here to help you. Now let's chat with today's featured guest, Zachary Forcher. Zach, it is a go time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So he started from TimeGate Studios and now is the co-founder at Orb Interactive. He has over 15 years of experience in the game industry and recently released his latest game, Gods of Olympus, on mobile. So go ahead, Zach, give us a bit about your personal life and how you got started in the game industry.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to think back on that one. That was a long time ago, it feels like now. Let's see, I graduated art school back in the late 90s, I think in 97. And the gaming industry was actually rolling into its prime. This is when PC was still strong, but like a lot of the consoles were, like Xbox was starting to come out. I think that was the first Xbox. PlayStation started getting into it. So when I came into it, it was really getting into the big, and I got a lucky break when I applied at TimeGate Studios down in Houston, Texas. They took me on, and that was a whole startup company. The people there were not experienced. Everyone they hired was kind of juniors coming out of school, and we kind of just had to learn how to do everything on our own. We didn't have any instructors or any mentors, I should say. So it was a little rough. Starting there. But I worked there for, I don't know, it was like 13 years. I started out as just an artist, but they quickly moved me to a lead art position. And then I moved to an art director position, and then over the years I kind of bounced from art director to producer to I was a creative lead at one point, and back to art director over multiple projects. So I kind of bounced around there, typically in the art department and heading up the art department for quite a long time until TimeGate finally went under 2-3 years ago. And that's when I started Orb Interactive with a couple of my fellow TimeGate alumni, old pals, and that's where we are today.
Now, what specifically do you work in the art area? Like, what is your main area of expertise?
My personal area of expertise is animation and special effects. That's where I have the most passion and enjoy working the most. But of course, as an art director, you kind of get experience with all disciplines, at least a little of it. So from concepting, modeling, texturing, rigging, in any art discipline, you got to know a fair bit about, so that you can communicate pretty well and show the people that are working with you, what you want them to do or what needs to be changed, or this is the vision, or whatever. But not only that, but then you actually get pretty experienced in things like memory management and team construction, team management, even budgets. So you start picking up a lot of skills in those areas. But me personally, just kind of getting back to your question, animation and special effects was what I like to do.
And now, like, people who's into animation and special effects, what is something that they should know about that they probably don't know about?
Oh man, well, that's a good question. I'd have to think on that one for a few. I will say that off the top of my head, most junior artists do not realize that special effects is actually a discipline, and one that is heavily sought after. Working with particle systems, working with shaders, it's becoming more popular, but most people are not aware of it and just how sought after that position is, because so much of the visuals depend on the visual effects artists. You know what I mean? Like creating explosions or water splashes or trickling water or pixie dust, whatever it is. That's all the technical artists. I'm sorry, not the technical artists. The visual effects artists, and they're pretty much. They're integral part of the development. That is heavily overlooked. Everyone mostly thinks about characters or environment. But they don't think of all the effects within it that really make it up, or at least complete it. So Yeah, if you're a junior artist looking to get into something, visual effects is a really good area to look at.
It's supposed to like make the screen shine, I guess. I don't know another way of saying it, but like special effects just makes it look prettier, or or even adds like a mechanic to like a cue to do something.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's used to hide imperfections. Usually, if you're going to let me think of an example. Let's say that you're going to have a guy transform into a creature. Well, typically that's going to be two separate models, and to disguise the transformation, a lot of times they'll have smoke effects or weird things animated over the body of one as it transforms into another, just to kind of hide the messiness that's going on underneath. So there's just a slew of areas in visual effects that most people don't even know about, but it's definitely a good one.
Yeah,
good one to get into.
Honestly, didn't even think about that. Yeah, you make a great point. Yeah, the smoke as they're transforming, it blocks or it hides all the bad effects that's in the process of that character transforming. So the smoke hides it. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even think about that. Oh.
Yeah, and that's just one example. I mean, there's 1,000 of them, but yeah, definitely a good one. And visual effects.
If people had to teach themselves that expertise, what resources would you recommend they use?
Well, these days, I would recommend just using the engines that are out and available, the large engines. So Unreal, I'm pretty sure Unity now has an effects editor, and you can make shaders and things in that. I'm pretty sure you can. Just looking at those two engines, they have very, very phenomenal tools for visual effects. Things that I could have only dreamt about when I started. I started using 3D Studio Max, which does have some good particle systems and support. Actually, really good nowadays. But they also have improving shader support. So you can do them in those, but of course you have to render everything. Typically, if you're looking for games, you want to do it in an actual gaming engine, so that you're dealing with all the troubles and the difficulties of doing things in real time. But yeah, I would definitely recommend Unreal or Unity to get you started in that. Yeah,
and they're free too. So game devs, just go get started on those. They're free.
Exactly.
And I think Unity and Unreal are like the biggest engine, I believe, for game making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely Unreal. I'm pretty sure Unreal pretty much runs the show, especially now that they're. This is a programming thing, but they release all of their source code, so the programmers are in love with the engine. If you're going to pick an engine, they're going to be like, "Oh, that one shows me all their code. We're using that one." So, yeah, it's a good one to learn.
What are your key principles for better game development?
Typically when you're working on a game, you've got these. I'm trying to remember. It's just the three pillars. You've got time, you've got money, and then you've got quality. The three pillars, right? So, as an artist, and what I think is most important always is the quality. And you always want to push for the highest quality possible. Which basically means you work on something, then you step back, you take a look at it. If it's everything you dreamed it was, great. Most likely it won't be. And you'll want to take another pass. You know what I mean? To refine things or redesign things slightly, because now that you're seeing it, you realize it didn't go as far as you want. So that's the quality aspect. But that could be hindered, of course, if you don't have enough time or money. If you've got a deadline of only a couple of weeks, well, you have to make sacrifices in quality. Or if money's about to run out, you've only got enough money to do it for another, couple of days or whatever. That can mess up the quality. But for sure, quality, I think, trumps everything. It's always going to it rewards you the most in the end. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, and you mentioned, time could affect the money could affect the quality, and each three pillars could affect one way or another. Now, that takes us to our next moment. Give us like a personal experience of your most difficult moment. And like you said, it could be an obstacle, it could be emotion, it could be a quality on the game, and be detailed and give us that story.
Oh man. Yeah, I've got a couple of great stories. But one that comes to mind, one that I typically think of as one of my most difficult, biggest. I was working as the project director and on Fear. it's a first-person shooter called Fear, and it was an expansion pack called Perseus Mandate. So creative lead, that's what I was thinking. I'm sorry. I was the creative lead on Perseus Mandate. Fear, Perseus Mandate. And it was, for lack of a better term, a nightmare. The problem with the franchise was when Fear originally started as a property of Monolith. Monolith Studios, they had the property, but their publisher actually owned, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think the publisher owned the name Fear, the brand Fear, but Monolith owned the characters. And what had happened was Monolith moved on to work on something else, and the publisher still wanted to make a Fear game and this expansion pack. So then they came to TimeGate Studios and says, well, we have this game Fear, and it's done really well, and we want to do an expansion, and would you guys do it? And of course, we were like, oh yeah, this game was awesome. We definitely want to do it. So they asked me to be the creative lead on the project, and of course I was extremely excited, and I started coming up with all these cool ideas that I wanted to pull off in the expansion and all these new things. Well, as development went on, I realized I pretty much had no control over the project because the characters were not to be touched. Like, I couldn't kill any of the characters. I couldn't develop their backstories. I couldn't develop much of their forward-going stories because all the guys over at Monolith were like, well, we're not sure what we want to do with those characters, so no, you can't do that with them, or you can't do this with them. So I had a terrible time coming up with a story. And then, of course, the guys who owned the Fear name, they would have problems with anything that I proposed, or I'd want to, come up with this really cool shootout scene in a warehouse, and, I wanted this to happen or that to happen. And they'd say, nah, we don't think that actually is what the Fear brand represents. That doesn't work for us, so redo it. And the whole project, I was just redoing things and trying to cater to these two groups. And the project really suffered. I think the project, what we came up with was okay, but I'm actually pretty embarrassed to put my name on it because it was just hell getting that thing out. And like the team, they did a real good job with what we were able to work with. We did okay, but in the end, it was just a big nightmare. So. Yeah, if you're ever in a situation like that where you're working on a project and you have no control, even though you are the creative lead, my advice is to get out because it will not end up well. There's just too many chefs in the kitchen. It's going to make a total mess, and then that's kind of what it turned out to be. So
it's crazy how they gave you the creative lead, but they didn't let you be creative at all because they put on so many limitations to you.
Yeah. Yeah. They know they needed somebody, kind of driving the ship, but in the end, they didn't want any give away any control at all. It's fascinating.
You're motivated to make something great happen, and they just stopped you, man. That sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go in that franchise and you are expecting, some type of limitations. Like, you can't just kill all the main characters, on the first level or something like that. You would know that's off limits. But some of the things I thought were pretty innocent, or they made a lot of sense, or they were fair. But no dice.
So, what do you want to make sure game devs take away from this experience? Like, you say for them to get away, but what if they can't get away? Like, what do you want to make sure they take away from this?
Oh yeah. If they're not able to get out of a situation like that and get out of the project, oh man, I don't know. Just do the best you can. Try to. A lot of times it comes down to communication when you're in a really messy boat like that. Communicating with everybody of intentions and where you want to go with it, and sometimes having the fights that need to happen in order for something to get done or move forward. But yeah, I don't know if there's any specific thing that I could look back to and say, if I would have just done this, it would have fixed it. So that's the advice I would give anyone else. All I could say is do your best communicating and fight, fights that you think are most important, and hope for the best.
Now let's go to your best moment. Like, what's the best investment you've made? And it could be investment of money, time, or energy. And how did you decide to make that investment?
Best investment? You in anything?
Yeah.
Or you mean in the game industry?
Both. Because
oh, both. Oh, wow.
I think personally, it could help with the game industry, or vice versa. Like any investment you've made that's just helpful to your life.
My mind's jumping quickly to money. I could give some money advice. The sooner you can buy a house, the better. Most people don't realize that a house is an investment. Assuming that the house you're buying, the property is going up. So you put money into a home. If you ever leave, you're going to get that money back plus whatever property value has gone up on it. So it's a good investment. So if you're in a job situation where you're going to be there for a few years, better to get a house than an apartment. That's my advice there. I would say it was a good idea for me and the guys to form our own company. Actually, I can maybe speak on that for a second. There was a number of times when we had discussed doing this as we were working at TimeGate and feeling that the studio really wasn't moving in a direction that we agreed with. But I'll say, in the end, I think we did the right thing, sticking it out through the hard times, because when you're working in a rough situation and you're working in a studio and you're having hard times, either you're doing a lot of crunching or the management that you're working under gives you a hard time. All of this information that you're taking in is only going to improve you if you ever do want to go and start your own studio. What you'll figure out is what not to do. You'll know, hey, we did it this way at the studio, and I know that was a total mistake. It was a huge fail. It cost us quality. It messed up the game's timeline. It did this and that and the other. So having all these failures is actually teaching you what you need to know to go out on your own. It can be difficult, and it can be done to start. I guess, like in your situation, you say you're starting your own studio now, right? Mm-hmm. But you haven't been in the studio, so it definitely can be done. But in my case, I think it was pretty valuable to be in the studio and in the studios that had rough times, and then getting out of them. It was a lot easier for us to know the best course of action. Just having that experience. So, when we finally did leave TimeGate, I think it was a really perfect opportunity to start a studio, and so far it's been really successful for us. We've done really well, and we're really happy about that. So,
yeah, I heard Gods of Olympus is a success. So, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's doing really well, and better every day. I mean, we're looking at the installs, and it's also getting a lot of content. You're doing pretty well if you find people on YouTube that are making content about your game. So that always feels pretty good. So we're pretty happy. We've got a lot of cool ideas and stuff coming down the pipe to keep improving the game, and we've got a lot of loyal players. So we're really excited and happy with the progress and how it's doing.
Awesome, that's a great thing to be excited about. And what is something else that excites you most today in the game industry?
I'll tell you, one thing that's really got me excited, something I'm really interested in personally, is augmented reality. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for quite a while, the whole VR thing was like this, the talk of the town. Oh, man, virtual reality, it's this, really cool thing. And it is cool, don't get me wrong, for sure. But it has a lot of difficulties and challenges that after it's been kind of rumbling and going on for the last couple of years, people have started to kind of, think, yeah, it's kind of a neat thing, but it's not really a game experience I want to have. Getting closed off into these goggles where you can't see, and the experience they're trying to sell where you can kind of walk around or, do things. It's just not quite hitting home, I think, with a lot of people. Plus, it's expensive. But augmented reality, I think, is a better way to go. I see a lot more potential there because you're still able to see the real world, mm-hmm. and the game is sort of kind of mixed in to what you're able to see. So you don't get this sort of this sort of black and white situation where you're kind of either in the game or you're not. And when you're in the game, things are kind of confusing because what you're seeing in the game isn't what you're seeing in the real world, and you're tripping over things. You know what I mean? You're getting lightheaded, or you're losing your balance because you're looking around this world and you've fallen off the couch. Anyway, the things I've seen with augmented reality, I think, are still sort of in their infancy, but there's a lot of really cool possibilities. We've actually been talking about after Gods of Olympus possibly doing a couple of things. But I think that's one thing that's going to be pretty big moving ahead.
So now we nearly reached our end of the show, and this is what I like to call crunch time, where I'll be asking you a lot of questions quickly, and you'll be giving us like a ton of valuable information at a fast pace. So Zach, are you ready to crush it and release the show?
Oh man, crunch time! I'm real familiar with that.
That's why we're gonna crush it. That's why we're gonna crush it.
I'll give it my best. We'll see. Yeah.
What was holding you back from becoming a game developer?
What was holding me back? Just knowledge of how to get into it. Taking the first step. How do you get going into it? I think was what held me back. And then I found an art school, which kind of gave me a little bit of the knowledge, and that was the kickoff. So.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, golly. I don't know the best advice I've ever received. That's one of those situations. It could be a ton of things, but one that comes to mind is hire people that are smarter than you.
Oh, yeah, that's a great advice.
Yeah.
What's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Problem solving. I actually do really enjoy problem solving, and that is one of the untold special skills that you do need to have in order to succeed in game development. Being able to solve problems, because you've got a problem every day. It's not always I'm just modeling every day. You're solving problems to make it work in the game and all these special situations. So problem solving is a big one. Yeah. How
has a failure set you up for later success?
Well, I kind of mentioned on this earlier. It's good to remember that whenever you fail something, you'll actually learn the most. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm sure I've got a million again, but failures will always give you knowledge to improve yourself, as long as you're mentally taking note and you're always thinking of continuous improvement. Hey, there's another one. That's another some good advice I've had. Always be thinking to improve yourself. Continuous improvement. Never think that, hey, I'm at an art school, so I know everything I need to know now. Or, even if you've been in the industry 10 years, I know everything I want to know. No way. Every day, continuous improvement. There's something you got to learn every day.
Share an internet resource.
To be honest, the resource I use most is YouTube.
No, that's a great resource.
Yeah, I use that. Reference videos from games, other games. Reference videos from movies. Find whatever information you can. And most people don't know this, but on YouTube you can step through videos one frame at a time using your comma and period buttons.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so a lot of times if you're looking to figure out exactly how somebody pulled off an effect, or want to see the animations, frame by frame, just use period and the comma to kind of go back and forth. I also think that's the forward bracket and back bracket, or whatever it's called. Forward caret, back caret. But yeah, step through them one frame at a time, and you can learn a lot.
What's your current favorite game?
Probably World of Warcraft. I still get addicted to that game whenever they've got an expansion pack or one of their patches. I've spent the most time on that game. Either that or League of Legends.
Oh, yeah. Great game. Good games. Now, this next question is a doozy, so take your time if you need to. Imagine you woke up the next morning in a brand new world and you knew no one. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have today. Your food and shelter is taken care of, and you have a laptop. What would you do step by step on the path to become a great game developer?
I'd probably do what I did already and start my own studio. I would probably do that. I'd probably start my own studio again if I had the money. On the other hand, if I didn't have the money, what I would probably do is immediately start working on a portfolio. And the key to a portfolio, this is another bit of advice, is find a studio that you really like, that you would love to work at. The titles they're working on just are, you're amazed by, and cater all of your portfolio towards them. Like if it was a studio like Blizzard and you really want to work on StarCraft, then make StarCraft designed characters, effects, animations, anything that looks like it would go in their game. Build a portfolio based around that and send it to them, and you'll have a much better chance of getting in and working with them. That's something I didn't know coming out of school, and a lot of kids these days they come out of school and they try to have a portfolio with everything. Oh yeah, look, I can model, I can animate, I can do 9,000 things, but that really won't get you anywhere. You need to impress somebody and turn heads, and to do that, it's good to cater towards what kind of things that they're working on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is freaking great advice. I didn't even think about that. That is because you're building a portfolio for a game company that you love to work for. And if they see like your portfolio matches the type of game they're making, it's like an easy hiring right there.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's like, oh, look, he can already do the things that we need people to do. Let's hire him on, and he can hit the ground running. We don't have to teach him our style, and we don't need to give him a month to, improve his skills to match what we're doing. He's already ready, and they really like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Zach, it's been a pleasure. Go ahead and give a parting piece of guidance and how we can connect with you.
To connect with me, I'd say the easiest way to do it is to just hit up the Orb Interactive Facebook page. You can message me through that, which is just facebook.com/Orb Interactive. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, and through the Orb Interactive channels. So.
And what's a parting piece of guidance?
Oh, geez, another parting piece of guidance.
we got to help these game devs out. So anything you can share, everything's been amazing so far. But the more you can share, the better.
Oh yeah. I love sharing, and I've got tons of them. It's usually something that has to be sort of, a question that will spur something in my mind. I guess just follow your passions. A lot of times it's tricky to figure out what your passions are. People say, stick with what you like, or in the art industry, if you have not done anything artistic, and you're just getting started modeling, texturing, a lot of times you'll actually have to start doing a lot of artwork in a lot of different areas. Just dabble in them, and then you'll figure out which areas you feel are most comfortable for you, and you do the best in, and you have the most passion about the things that you can't wait to get to. Like, I hate doing this part of the art, but man, when I get to this part, it's a breeze for me. I really enjoy it, and I think I do a good job. As soon as you find those passions, stick with them and really enhance them, develop them, because those are typically your specialties. Those will be your gifts, and if you can just really hone in and focus on those, you'll typically do really great somewhere, So that'd be my advice there.
Yes, that's all great value bombs. Hey, thank you so much for sharing your journey with Game Devs, and for that, we are truly grateful. We look forward to your work, and until then, we will catch you next time.
All right, thanks so much. Pleasure.
Thank you, Game Devs, for listening, and remember that knowledge is only potential power, execution is the game. Go check out my website at GameDevLoadout.com for all the show notes. If you want to listen to more inspiring stories, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Until then, keep on making games, and I will see you on the next episode.